The Daily Transcript got its start as the National City Record in 1882. Through several owners, it became the Daily Transcript in 1886. But back in the Roaring '20s, the paper evolved into the business and financial publication we see today. A lot has changed for journalists in the last 130 years. Here with a look back and forward are my guests, Dean Nelson, journalism professor at Point Loma Nazarene University, and KPBS news editor Joe Guerin, former editor at the Daily Transcript. And Joe, you were at the Transcript for 14 years or so, correct?
That's right.
And what kind of changes did you see in those 14 years? Was there any anticipation that we were sort of going in this direction?
Certainly, over the 14 years, the paper got smaller. The newsprint version got thinner, fewer ads. The website was picking up some momentum, so that was a plus, but not obviously enough.
Well, I know the paper's publisher released a statement. Robert Loomis said that the shutdown was because of increasing overhead costs. He cited rising healthcare costs and uncertain future in the news industry. But my understanding is the Daily Transcript was the first paper in the U.S. to go online. So why do you think that wasn't viable enough to keep the paper going?
Well, the model just hasn't proven out. They were trying to sell subscriptions for online only, and they were able to sell just not enough to keep that going. And also the advertising dollars that you get for online ads are not nearly what you get for ads that run in the print edition.
So you weren't able to get the income even though they were online and keeping up on that. Well, Dean, you also worked at the Daily Transcript,
yes.
I understand, way back then.
I was a summer replacement for a few summers back in the 80s.
Now, you said you were surprised that the paper actually lasted as long as it did.
I think they've been on a very short leash financially for a long time, and I'm proud of them, actually, that they withstood so much of the pressure. But as Joe said, they were trying to move so much of what they were doing online, as many news organizations have done over the years, assuming that the same kind of advertising work would occur, and advertisers just weren't getting the same kind of response to what they were seeing online as they were from print.
And Joe, what were, just for people who don't know, remind us of the kind of stories that were covered and basically what this publication did.
Well, it covered the business community, which is quite far-reaching, but it focused primarily on commercial and residential real estate, the construction industry, and then the legal community. Those were the bread and butter issues, but then also they covered technology, defense, government, nonprofits, and those. But
on a level that was so much deeper than a lot of places.
Yeah, they just looked for a business angle on everything. That's what was so great about the Transcript, is that any news story, they could find some sort of a business or economic angle for it.
Well, what about this? So this paper is closing in September, right?
Right.
It follows the North County Times, which was bought by the UT and then sold or closed down, essentially. And also, most recently, the Union Tribune being bought by Los Angeles Times. So let me start with you.
What's your point, Peggy?
What does this tell you about news here today in San Diego?
What it tells us is that nobody's figured out how to make money at it. And it's still a business. We would love to think of it as kind of a public service. We have this First Amendment that says, you know, that gives us a certain amount of freedom to do what we do, but it's still a business. And nobody has figured out yet how to make it a viable business in the electronic age. That's what it tells us. Yes.
So I'll start with Joe on this one then. The future of news, how do you see it moving forward?
Well, slowly. It's changing dramatically, as we all see. The loss of these publications, and as Dean and I were talking, the need for journalism, good journalism, is greater now than it's been for forever, really. And it's going to go in fits and starts. People are going to try new things, and they might have success at it, and measured success. And then they'll try something else, but there'll always be somebody trying to provide the news in one way or another.
And let me have you weigh in on that, Dean, because do you see it like more like a Reuters or an AP? Are we going to have sort of this centralized news and aggregation of news, or do you think that's?
I hope not. I think we need more voices, not fewer. And so what I tell journalism students is we really need people who are great storytellers, people who are great at analyzing data, and people who will go that extra mile to do verifiable information. We need that more than ever. Now, where you're going to be able to exercise those gifts and those needs, That's still being defined. The need is there.
So it's how you define it.
Yeah, and I'm convinced they'll figure it out. I really do.
I certainly hope so. Professor Dean Nelson and KPBS News editor Joe Guerin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.